Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my presentation. In the following minutes, I will give you some insights about the topic of our paper, a user-centric, privacy-preserving approach to control data collection, storage, and disclosure in own smart home environments. First of all, I will give you a short introduction to our topic, insight to our proposed approach, then I will come to the qualitative evaluation of our approach and will close the presentation with discussion, conclusion, and future work. Now, coming to the introduction, smart environments such as smart home, smart city, etc. are one of the parts of the technological development in the context of pervasive computing systems. In our paper, we concentrate on smart home environments, in which the end users are interacting with various smart objects, such as smart bulbs, smart door locks, etc. While those smart objects improve our lives in different areas, they also collect sensor-based data of their owners as well as their environment and disclose those data towards their parties. To meet the arising privacy issues in this context, several privacy-preserving solutions have been proposed. But note that most of them do not involve the end users in their design in order to improve the acceptance of those solutions and do not allow end users to control the entire data collection and disclosure process. Laws such as the European Law on Data Protection and Privacy, the GDPR, still call for more user involvement in the privacy protection process. In our paper, we use the user-centric control points, so-called UCCPs, which were identified as requirements for user-centric privacy-preserving solutions from a previous questionnaire-based study to develop a user-centric privacy-preserving approach, which address the four main weaknesses of the existing privacy-preserving solutions. Addressing those four weaknesses helps end users, firstly, to apply different minimization and aggregation levels in order to control the data collection, secondly, to assess the sensitivity level of the collected data types in order to make a conscious decision regarding data disclosure, thirdly, to balance privacy risk with the benefits in order to make data sharing decisions by considering their own attitude towards data collection and sharing, and fourthly, to make data sharing decisions after considering the context-based privacy risk and advantages arising from the different collected data types from all the smart objects in their own smart home environment at one point in time. Furthermore, our derived user-centric privacy-preserving approach can be implemented in already existing IoT system architectures. We also recommend to implement our proposed privacy-preserving solution, including 4 UCCPs in the IoT device layer, as outlined in the figure on the right, in order to give end users the opportunity to control the entire data collection, storage, and disclosure process in their smart home environments. Mentioning that, I would like to present you our proposed approach in this paper briefly. Our proposed approach includes 4 UCCPs, and the picture on the right outlines the interrelationships between the 4 UCCPs. The UCCPs 1 and 2 help end users to control the data collection process, while UCCP 3 and 4 help them to control the data disclosure process. While UCCP 1 and 3 include mechanisms helping users to assess the sensitivity level of the collected data, UCCP 2 includes different minimization and aggregation levels for different types of the collected data. Furthermore, UCCP 4 contains a model balancing privacy risks with personal and social benefits by considering the user's attitude regarding data collection and disclosure, as well as the function helping end users to make context-based privacy-preserving data sharing decisions. As shown in the table at the bottom, the time of execution of the UCCP settings includes 3 stages. Registration comprises the first time users start setting up the smart object and initial utilization. Update comprises the point of time when the smart object has been updated. And aggregation period comprises the period set by the users for the review of the collected data. End users are asked to set the settings regarding the first 2 UCCPs for controlling the data collection process during the registration process of the smart objects. In comparison to that, end users are asked to set the settings regarding the 3rd and 4th UCCPs for controlling the data disclosure process during the aggregation period. Let's have a short detailed look at the first 2 UCCPs, allowing users to control the data collection process. UCCP 1 is named as Data Object Tagging and UCCP 2 as Data Minimization and Aggregation. While applying these 2 UCCPs, users are asked to assign them to one of the 2 profiles described in our model in order to capture users' attitude regarding data collection and privacy preserving. And the users are also asked to minimize the data collected by choosing between 2 options: service data, which include data collected to provide the object's services, and additional data collected, which include additional data collected by smart object sensors. They also ask to set the aggregation options in order to control the data aggregation for data sharing. The given 2 options for users are exact time of each action of the smart object for daily review, or time period users want to aggregate and review the collected data by their smart objects, for example, weekly, monthly, etc. Moreover, these 2 UCCPs also include 3 default settings and supply users privacy ratings of the smart object providers based on a 5-star based rating system in order to give the users more background information concerning the smart object providers. In order to simplify the applicability of our approach, the following 3 default settings are presented. User identity, including detailed information about user's personal identity, aggregation layer, including setting the data aggregation layer, and user's home-based location, including the recording of user's availability at home and exact home-based location. For example, the user is present in the living room. The default settings are set to preserve user's privacy and presented to the end users, and if they like, they are allowed to change these default settings. In case of updates, the end users get a push notification which asks them whether they want to adjust the settings in UCCP 2 regarding minimizing and aggregating the data collected by their smart objects. In comparison to UCCP 1 and 2, the UCCP 3 and 4 allow users to control the data disclosure process. UCCP 3 is named as Data Sharing and 4 as Data Access Limitations. While applying these 2 UCCPs, users are asked to set their personal quantifier between their own risk sensitivity and their sense of advantage in order to capture users' sense for associated privacy risks and advantages arising from data sharing. They are also asked to set their decision regarding data sharing and limited data access after considering the recommendations supplied by our context-based trade-off decision model. In case the users decide to share their data, then the settings of the UCCP 4 allow them to limit the data consumers and data usage purposes. The inputs regarding data consumers and usage purposes must be provided and updated from smart object providers at the latest by the start of end users reviewing collected data at the end of each predefined aggregation period. In order to allow end users to perceive the associated privacy risks and advantages and to assess the sensitivity of different information types in the context of data disclosure, end users are provided with data sharing information categories and an overview of personal information types by smart object providers. While data sharing information categories present the associated privacy risks and personal and social advantages arising from disclosing the collected data, the overview of personal information types include different information assigned to types of the data sharing information categories, for example, voice print, biological characteristics, etc. The data sharing information categories and overview of personal information types must be supplied and updated at the latest by the time when the end users start reviewing the collected data at the end of each predefined aggregation period. After looking at our UCCPs, in our paper, we also evaluated our approach qualitatively. For the evaluation, we chose 4 existing approaches which are relevant works in this area and provide the basis of our work. While Bami et al. Presents a reference architecture including a trade-off decision component, Huang et al. Proposes a role-based access control framework which can be applied in the context of data sharing in smart home environments. Furthermore, the papers Abuter et al. And Alanesi et al. Present a security and privacy-preserving solution as well as privacy negotiation mechanisms for IoT environments. Although these approaches provide the basis for our proposed approach, they do not give sufficient options for the user to control the privacy-preserving data collection, storage, and disclosure. The evaluation matrix are organized in 2 categories: privacy-preserving functionalities of the proposed solutions and the right of the smart object owners, which are derived from a literature review. The qualitative evaluation outlines that the user-centric control over data collection, storage, and disclosure is only partially possible in the former approaches, as shown in the table on the right, and do not give sufficient options for the users to control the whole process. Coming to discussion and related work, with our proposed privacy-preserving approach, we firstly address 4 weaknesses of the previous approaches. Secondly, empower end users to control the entire data collection, storage, and disclosure process. And thirdly, help end users to make context-based privacy-preserving data sharing decisions. By proposing a user-centric privacy-preserving approach, which can be implemented in the future in existing IoT architectures, we address the demands from the GDPR, especially rights such as right for access and right to be forgotten. However, it must be investigated in the future whether end users are willing to have such trade-off decision-making model-based recommendations. Moreover, they are asked to make settings considering their attitude towards data collection and disclosure. Therefore, they get several information as inputs in our approach, such as privacy ratings, data consumers, usage purposes, etc. These inputs must be tested with end users within a user study to find out whether they want to have the predefined inputs and/or whether they are willing to have more information than the existing inputs of the proposed approach in order to consider those information in their data disclosure decision-making process and assess the sensitivity level of their personal data. Finally, our work also has few limitations. The findings are mainly based on a literature review and on the results of a previous carried out questionnaire-based survey. Our derived approach must be validated with a user questionnaire and studies which we target to address in the near future. Having a brief look at the related work, in previous works, different approaches have been proposed regarding privacy-preserving solutions for IoT as listed in the right. For example, role-based access control framework, reference architecture including thread of decision component, privacy negotiation mechanisms for IoT environments, etc. However, the main limitations of existing approaches are that the end users cannot control the entire data collection, storage, and disclosure process in their smart home environment, and that users cannot make context-based data disclosure decisions considering all the data collected by the smart objects in a smart home environment, and users do not have the possibility to apply data minimization and aggregation strategies as well as data usage limitations. With that, I would like to come to the conclusion and future work. To sum up, our proposed approach allows end users to control the entire data collection, storage, and disclosure process by considering different minimization and aggregation levels, applying mechanisms helping users to assess the sensitivity level of the collected data types by balancing the arising privacy risks and social and personal advantages, and applying functions helping end users to make context-based privacy-preserving data sharing decisions. With this approach, we address the existing weaknesses in this area and empower users to have more control over the personal data processing in the smart home environments. In future, we plan 3 core points: to implement the proposed approach in a smart home environment, and to carry out user studies to investigate its performance as well as users' acceptance and derive further requirements regarding the proposed approach in this paper. Furthermore, we also plan to conduct questionnaire-based studies in order to find out whether the overview of personal information types assigned to data sharing information categories helps end users to assess the sensitivity level of their collected personal data. This was my presentation about our paper, and thank you very much for your attention. The following 2 slides contain sources of this presentation. Thank you.